It is beyond a pleasure that I get to be here with you guys today. Those my parents, the parents of our group here do know, some of you others do. I was out for a little bit between some family and health emergencies for almost all of January and only got to rejoin back this week. So I'm doing okay. So it's always a pleasure to be able to be here. And this group behind me has just done such a wonderful job. And it really is a sign of true musicianship and maturity that without their teacher, the director there, they still worked as hard as anything in my absence to make sure that we could put on a wonderful concert for you today. So today, I don't always with younger groups kind of create a theme for a concert. But for us today, I decided that it would be really enjoyable to have a concert of North American music. And so we have 4 pieces today that span a bit of history and are of composers from North America and of music from this, from people mostly who have emigrated, some who were of indigenous background for today. So the order is a little bit different than what we, I think, put in the program, so with our apologies. The first, I don't usually talk before every piece, but I'll announce a little bit today just so that we know what's going on. The first piece is going to be a Gavotte, which is a Baroque dance, but somewhere in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was what we call a neoclassical kind of reaffirmation, if you will, of the style, and composers that were composing in a more modern style were using classical and even Baroque era forms. And so we today have a very special honor to be the first student orchestra of, lower than college level to perform a piece by one of the most important composers in American history that was left out of the books. Her name is Amy Beach. How many of you have heard of her? Right. This is something we need to fix. She, born in the mid-late 1800s, studied with some incredible composers in the late 1800s, and was very much admired the music of Dvorak as she got to know him a bit and met him when he came to this country in the early 1890s. Just recently, Maestro Murray, who's the premier Sacramento Symphony conductor, he also runs the orchestras here at Sac State, and last year they did the Gaelic Symphony, which is one of her several symphonies that she wrote. Wonderful piece of music. So Amy Beach is someone that we really need to know. She's a very important part of our American music history, and this little string piece we're playing today is an arrangement from a piano piece, but it is the first time that it's ever been done out here. If maybe it was played on piano before, I have no idea, but it's never been done by an orchestra. So we've had a history between here and my groups in Vivace of doing and performing a lot of music and composers that have never been heard of, never been played before, basically. So this is really important to be able to do this. So this is a Gavotte by Amy Beach. For arrangements of her music for strings, years. And even through September, there was nothing. And then all of a sudden, I looked in November, and there were like 7 or 8 different string arrangements of her music, and I went, whoa. So over the next couple of years, I'm going to keep trying to kind of feed a few more in through our programming, because this is important music, and she's a name we need to know. She is a composer that needs to be part of when we talk about American music and the great composers that have come from the late Romantic era to the 20th century. Her name's got to be there. Very important. So the next one we're going to do is, it's not an area debut, but my guess is it probably hasn't been played out here for like 50 years. A composer is a composer who was born in Iowa, but then moved out and lived in the foothills down south a little ways. His name was Keuning, and having a musical background, he moved to the foothills, like I said, and in doing so, he absolutely loved the area, and as a composer, decided to pay tribute to Northern California in very many ways. And he wrote several pieces that were really basically string arrangements with piano that were to demonstrate his feelings, his feel about the area. Today we're going to play for you what is called the San Joaquin Delta Suite. And this kind of style of music I would loosely term as, because this conjures up an idea, steamboat music. And so if you take, ragtime and the feel of ragtime and kind of the sense of the piano and how ragtime felt as a music, and you add some strings and maybe a little extra touch of some jazzishness, you end up with this sound. And of the 3 movements in it, one is called the Delta King, and as we know, we have the steamboat called the Delta Queen out here, right? He also wrote a movement in there called the Tule Fog. And as you know, well, we actually had some this year. If you've been around for a while, you might remember that for years and years and years, as far back as you can remember, for 2-3 months, there was fog. It's this amazing fog that grows up off the ground. It kind of stays there rather than what kind of comes in off the coast, right? And it's, with the land being more moist and wet and the air dry, just like when you see your breath in the cold. That's the Tule Fog. If you're like, well, wait, what are you talking about? Since about 2006 and 2007, you probably noticed this, it went away. It disappeared. It was gone. A sign of how our climate's changed. And most amazingly, I've been wanting to do this for a while. This group has been perfect with it. We started playing this in November, and what showed up this November? The Tule Fog. And we had like 2 months of it this year. And it was wonderful, and I was so happy, and everybody's like, oh, the fog. I'm like, oh, it came back! Whoa. So, I'm a complete belief that we did that because we played this piece. In any case, the little movement is about that, and it's a really kind of sweet rendition of like that shimmer that you can feel and see in that fog. And so it's just, like I said, wonderful to see that fog again. It was a couple days ago we had it also. It's the fog that you can't see 10 feet in front of your car, In any case, a really, really cool piece of music. And among other things, it's also kind of highlights a piano part, which not always happens in string music, but that helps give it that little ragtime steamboat music feel. And so really, really proud that we have a couple brothers joining us from Premier on the violin, which I didn't announce last time, but really grateful for them to sit in because we're missing 4 different musicians today from the group over here. Actually 5 with one less cello. And Emma's over here, who, I didn't say this last time. Did you play last time? What did you play? What was it? It was the concerto, right? What was it? Oh. Yeah. So, anyways, Emma's right here was one of our premier Sacramento Youth Symphony concerto competition winners and got to perform last night. And so, just graciously agreed to sit in on the piano for this piece. So we obviously want to highlight our strings and everybody here. I'm really grateful for Emma for coming and sitting in really last minute to play the piano on this piece. Anyways, this is the San Joaquin Delta Suite, and what I'm hoping is in the next years, there's several others. There's the Yosemite Suite, there's the San Francisco Bay Suite, there's the Gold Country Suite. So this composer really wanted to highlight this area. Very cool. So this is really California music. So in any case, this is the San Joaquin Delta Suite. Thanks so much. It's really neat music, huh? So I look forward to kind of delving into the other ones as well and bringing some of this music back from a Californian composer who, again, probably nobody's ever heard of. And it's a real treat to be able to do this here as well. Real quick before we go on, want to make sure we introduce a couple of the other guests with us who sat with us last time. One thing about, I don't necessarily encourage having to go through dealing with it, but the brain fog is a little bit there. We have three wonderful musicians, and make sure I remember names properly, so I apologize for that. But they've been sitting with us both concerts, just wonderful, wonderful musicians, current premier and former premier players. We have, first of all, Katerina and Marcus over on the viola, so I'm going to thank you for being here. Several years, which is just a treat because she's an absolute wonder on the bass. This is Amelia back here, so thank you so much. So, next in the program, or at least on the updated program, we're going to be playing one that's a very well-known, maybe traditional American tune called Symphony. done this one here and not before, so it might be a first. But there's a amazing waltz that I remember growing up kind of, maybe we did this before, I can't remember, but only being played in like carousels and like fairs and all this, which honestly I think did it some real disservice, and could go on further about that. You know, as we know, most waltzes that we're very familiar with, most of them came from Johann Strauss Jr., the Waltz King, and then there's of course some wonderful ones by Tchaikovsky. This waltz was mistaken for a long time to be a Strauss waltz, but it is not. We're going to be playing a piece called Sobre las Olas, or Over the Waves. And it was written by Mexican composer Juventino Rosas. He was alive in kind of mid-late 19th century. And he wrote this, he composed this in 1868. And it's been very popular over the years in different ways in this country, but he hasn't really been given the appropriate due for it. And it's really, really rare that we have, not just music in general from Mexican composers, and especially Mexican composers of indigenous heritage, but ones that we can play at this level. So this is our last one for today. It is a wonderful waltz, and you might recognize it. This is called Over the Waves. And thank you so much once again for being here. It's, of course, my complete, huge pleasure to be able to be standing here with you all. And thank you all so much.